One of the topics that always comes up when you get a group of folks affected by LHON together is assistive technology. And so we heard this morning from Jeffrey during the social worker from Site Connection. And Site Connection is a local agency that they've just been wonderful. Jeffrey came and talked to us this morning with some friends and colleagues of his. And the table out with in the hallway with the assistive technology, Joyce Shoemaker and Laura Rodriguez have been introducing assistive technology equipment to those of you who've had the chance to stop by that table. And when I went to visit them a few months ago and asked if they would help and speak here, and I said, look, I want you to just give like an introduction to assistive technology. Okay, fine. And how much time do I get? Half an hour. And they're like, you're crazy, but we'll do it. So Laura Rodriguez is going to give you the fastest overview to assistive technology you've ever seen. Laura, come on up, please. Thank you.
Hi guys. Well, I just have to say as I fold up my ID cane, preach on, brothers, preach on. So I feel so lucky to have had 37 years to practice. So there's something to be said for being blind from birth. So anyway, so welcome to your Assistive Technology Overview class. You guys are all my students today. So we're going to start with a general definition of what assistive technology is. So assistive technology is basically any piece of equipment or product that has been adapted. People just jimmy stuff around their house all the time. There are websites for this. You can go check them out. And it basically, the whole goal of this is to increase, maintain, or improve your independence and your abilities to live your life on a daily basis. So that's the general definition of assistive technology. And so now I'm going to talk to you about software. So that's my area of expertise. Anything that has software, I'm the person to talk to. Anything that has hardware, you want to talk to Joyce. So the major players so there's two major categories for software. You're going to be talking about screen readers and screen magnification. And so screen magnification, sorry, I jumped a little bit. So screen magnification, the major players for that type of technology are going to be a company called AI Squared and a company called Freedom Scientific. And their products are ZoomText and Magic. And then when we're talking about screen readers, the major players are NVDA, JAWS, and Window Eyes. And there's a couple of other ones like System Access and I'm trying to think of some other ones. But so those are the major players. So now that I've kind of given you an idea of what the major software packages are, we can talk a little bit about screen reader features. So when you're just losing your vision and you still have some vision, you are going to want to be able to use screen magnification because it will enlarge the text size on your computer. There will also be cursor and mouse pointer enhancements. So, it's often really hard to find that little blinking line when you're trying to type. And then you can also customize color schemes. So maybe you're the kind of person who it's really hard for you to see black text on a white background. So you need to have, it even goes as crazy as blue text on a yellow background. And for some people, that totally works. Doesn't work for me, but it works for other people. And with ZoomText and Magic, they both have, I think there's like 20 different color ranges that you can go through. So you can go crazy with color. The other cool thing about, the other advantage of using screen magnification is there's something called focus enhancements. So a lot of times when your screen is so large, you don't really know where the background cursor is, and I can define that for you later. But it's basically, for example, if you're reading in an email and it's so blown up and you don't know where you are, there's a box that appears around that portion of the screen so you know where you're at. And then when it comes to screen reader features, so basically what screen readers do is they convert the text on the screen to speech output. And the primary way that you will navigate with a screen reader is you will be using a mouse. So I talked about when you first start to lose your vision, you use a screen magnifier, and then as your vision progresses, you want to start bringing in the screen reader so that you have a nice smooth transition. And the screen magnification programs have their own screen reading features built in. So you can either have that transition, or my eyes get tired and I just don't want to read. So I just turn on my screen reader features. And then the last thing I want to say about screen readers is that they have now made it so that you can script your own programs and your own web pages, because for a long time, web accessibility was just non-existent, and it was impossible to navigate a website. And so now web accessibility is the hot button topic, and everybody's scrambling to make that happen, but before that wasn't possible. And so now, when you get used to your screen reader, you can start scripting your own pages to make them accessible. So let's go ahead and talk about Apple accessibility. Sorry guys, I missed the slide. So this was our screen reader features, and then so we're going to talk about Apple accessibility. And Apple is so ahead of the curve that they get their own slide because they just are. And it kills me because I want people to have choice, but unfortunately, Apple is way ahead of the curve when it comes to accessibility. You can go buy an iDevice, we call them, or an iPhone, an iPad, iPod Touch. You can buy an Apple computer, and you know that you take that home and it will be accessible out of the box. Don't ask them at the Apple Store because they cannot help you. But I can give you a phone number at the end of this presentation where you can call and they will help you. The four major categories when we're talking about Apple accessibility are VoiceOver, which I know some of you are familiar with. That's their screen reader. Then their screen magnification program is called Zoom. And then I wish I brought my phone. So there's a really cool feature on the iDevices and on your computer. It's not on the computer, it's on the iDevices, but it's called the rotor. And so you can just use 2 fingers, and when VoiceOver is on, you just turn them, and this quick wheel of navigation pops up and lets you quickly navigate through a bunch of different choices. And the rotor changes depending on which window you're in. So if you're in Maps, it has a set of settings, and then if you're in like your email, it has different settings. So it's pretty innovative. And then the last thing is the Apple TV. And so the Apple TV is exciting and innovative because when we first got one, me and my husband sat back on the couch and we're like, hey, look at that, we can watch TV like a normal person. Because it's text to speech. And so you just sit on your couch and you have your remote, and it tells you exactly what's on the menu. So all the menus are auditory. With the new Apple TV, it has what's called a Siri remote. So you can navigate your remote as if you would on your iPhone or iPod Touch or whatever with gestures. That's anytime we're touching something, anytime we're touching a tablet or a smart screen, those are called gestures. So you can do that, and it also has dictation. So you can just dictate right into the Apple TV. So it's pretty innovative. I've heard that Samsung now has an assistive, I've heard they have a smart TV that's accessible. I haven't gotten my hands on one yet, but it's out there. And this is on the slide, but I'll speak quickly that I also know that the Kindle now has their version of the rotor. I believe it's called the wheel. And instead of a 2-finger switch, you just use 1 finger and go in a circle. So I'm very proud of Amazon for making that a priority. Okay, so the other thing that I want to talk about is video magnifiers. So if you have a chance after this presentation, or if you already have had the chance, we're demoing some video magnifiers outside, and these are devices that basically use closed-circuit television technology to capture an image and then project it in either magnified view, or you can also do OCR. So it magnifies text and images, and then it scans and reads with OCR. So OCR stands for Optical Character Recognition. So it takes the image in, and I'm sorry, not the image, the text, and then it spits it back out in speech output. And so this can come in the form of distance OCR. So if you're in a classroom, you can project the camera far away and it'll capture the image and read it back out to you. There are some portable units. We don't have them with us today, but you can definitely do some research about that. Okay, and then there's also the split screen capability. So this comes in two forms. So you can have your, let's say you're entering data. So you have your data on one side and you have on one part of your screen, and then you have your screen magnifier on the other side. So you don't have to, before you had to go like this, you had to go like this, you had to go like this, and it was just, it was just all this head turning. And so now it's all can be on one screen. The best environment is dual monitor. So you want your monitors to be side by side. And the thing about assistive technology is that if it is not placed properly, they just won't use it. And we want you to be using your technology, so it's really good you're gonna move it around and, you're not going to turn it upside down, but you might have to do that for cables. But the point is, you have to dance with your technology a little bit to figure out what is the best setup for me. Okay, so we talked about magnifying text, OCR, split screen, and then so then you can there's different sizes of monitors of video magnifiers. So there can be pocket ones, there can be large desktop units. So you just kind of have to do your research and find the best unit that suits your needs. And then there's a range of magnification levels. So it can go from something pretty small to very big. The larger you get, though, the bigger the monitor you want it to be. And that is the same, that speaks to for video magnification. So if you get to a point where you only have one letter on the screen, unfortunately, we should start talking about screen readers at that point. And then the last thing is, I kind of touched on this a little bit earlier about the different color modes. So again, the same kind of thing with screen magnifiers. You have different color modes with your video magnifiers. All right, so I touched on OCR a few minutes ago. So when we're talking about OCR options, so the major players for OCR are HumanWare, and we're demoing the Prodigy Connect 12 outside. The other major player is Freedom Scientific and Optilec and AI Squared. Those are the major players. And recently, just this week, this company called Verdant they purchased Freedom Scientific, they purchased Optilec last year. Actually, I think it was in the spring they purchased them. And now they just purchased AI Squared. So now it's VFOA, that's the new company. So just so you know that change has just happened. So the last thing that we're going to talk about is apps. So apps are great. There's apps for everything. Not all apps are accessible. And there's a great website where you can go for all things Apple. It's called appleviz.com, and they will let you know which apps are accessible. And so the KNFB Reader app, I know I've talked to some of you about this. This is great. It is a little pricey. It's $100, but it is a OCR program in your pocket. And it has literally changed our life. Our mail used to be so high, and we would never read it. And, now I just come home, I just read it really quick, and I can throw it away. And so that's a really exciting app. There's also one example of GPS apps that are great for the blind is called Nearby Explorer. And I got this list off of afb.org. Their website is great for recommendations. They have vetted a lot of these apps and tested them thoroughly. So you know that any information you're getting off of there is a good resource, and they're not biased also. So that's good to know that you're getting unbiased recommendations. And then, you may have some issues with seeing color. So an app such as Color ID would be a great choice for if you're trying to see colors of your clothes, for example, or if you're shopping and you want to be able to see what color something is. And then lastly, there's a lot of people now who are in the blindness community who are doing development, and so you can now play games if you're legally blind. And so there's a whole slew of games for iOS called blindfold games, and so you can play Mahjong and you can play Color Crush and all these different games. And I also have been told that the Xbox is accessible. Again, I haven't had a chance to test it because I don't have a bunch of money to go out and buy all this stuff, but the Xbox is now accessible. So that's basically it for assistive technology. So there you go. That's my presentation.
All right, thank you.
So class dismissed.
And let me just see if we have any questions before we dismiss you, because we have
Okay.
an expert here. And if anyone has any questions, yep, we got a question. Hold on, please.
Just a quick one. Thanks so much for everything you've shared with us. I know that most people that I talk to that have vision impairment seem to be huge Apple users and iPhone users. Do you have any background or knowledge on Android devices? I know you mentioned the Android TV, which I'm familiar with, but my understanding is that all the same features are in fact available on Android phones as well. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I haven't used them myself. I'm curious.
So that was the case for a really long time. And I was just actually reading a blog post by someone named Jonathan Mosen. He's a really good person to follow. And he was talking about how he had, how he had an Android and then he put it down. And for like a lot of us, for a really long time, Android just was way behind. But their screen reader is called TalkBack, and we actually have a tablet outside that has, my microphone seems to be going in and out, but has TalkBack on it. And so we can definitely do a demo and we can show you how it works. I do notice that it tends to be a little glitchy. So there is that, but it's, you can use it. I mean, it's definitely worlds better than it was before. So, and I just want to be clear that was the Apple TV. And apparently Samsung does have a TV, but again, I haven't had a chance to test it, so I can't really speak to that.
And we have another question here.
Actually, more of a comment and a piggyback on your response. Thank you for the presentation, first of all. This is great. And just as far as Android goes, it has been a journey for Android. And they, for a long time, they had a totally hands-free, a totally screen-free interaction model for people with vision impairment. And then they basically are tracking closer to what Apple does in OS X and iOS. So not only does it have, as she was just saying, not only have they finally gotten back up to speed with regards to screen reader capability, but they do have a magnification capability that is comparable to iOS. It is not as good, but it is comparable, and if sometimes iOS devices can be cost prohibitive, and Android can be a good and usable alternative.
And so I'm going to ask you a question if you don't mind. So I have a number for Apple's accessibility, but I've done a lot of research trying to find a comparative number for Android, and I haven't found one. Windows has a number that anybody with a disability can call, and they can get tech support at no cost, and Apple has that, but I haven't been able to find an equivalent to that for Android.
And I just wanted to let Thomas introduce himself.
Oh, hi. My name is Thomas McHugh. I've had LHON for just over 15 years now, and this is a subject that's, of course, near and dear to my heart because I use this stuff every day. And when I first was affected, the landscape was hugely fragmented and all over the place, as many of you know if you've been affected for a long time. And it's a much better technology landscape now. Just to say that. And I actually do have some professional involvement with web accessibility and usability. So just throwing that out there.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? She's coming from the other side.
Yeah, just a comment on the Android availability and the phone number. Android is a free use model, so I think Google is giving it away for free. So even though they develop the base component, they are not, they are just giving it away for free. So it's up to Google to support those kind of numbers, but since they are giving it away for free, that's probably one of the things that they have tried to avoid, whereas Microsoft and Apple have paid licenses, and they bid for a lot of federal contracts and so on, where the requirement is that they have to be accessible, so they have a much higher motivation. So unless Google starts bidding for government projects using Android, they might not have that number.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? I don't know.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's in my phone, so.
Okay, we'll get that to you. Anything else? All right, well, thank you again so
You're
much.
so welcome. Thank you for letting me come.